je úžasný, že všechno, co řeknete, někdo přepíše. Pak máte pocit, že to, co říkáte, má nějakou hodnotu, i když třeba jenom vyplňujete čas, abyste mohli předat mikrofon moderátorovi, protože moje role je teď, že moderuji předání mikrofonu moderátorovi a můžu ho tady přivítat, moderátor kempu Jiří Jaroš. Vítáme, děkujeme.
Tak a já mnohokrát děkuji. I'm really happy that I can be here with you for the second block of discussions. We will talk about what we need to improve creative centers. We will have a panel discussion with amazing speakers, and we will talk what we lack, what we can't do in case of creative centers. But we will start with important keynote speaker, JP170 from Utrecht. He will talk about the Dutch game Garden, which started its journey in 2008 and followed the path to 2025. It's creative center or hub that many game studios from Netherlands have called their home, which talks for itself. And I would like to mention that JP is a key figure in European game industry for more than 27 years of experience in game design, entrepreneurship, and startup acceleration. So he will be the keynote for this moment and also part of the panel discussion in a few minutes. So, JP, I would like to give you the floor. Welcome to camp.
Great, thank you. Testing, testing, yes. All right, so technology in one hand, technology in the other hand. I think we're all set. I love the way Agatha did it this morning. The time management system was very low-key, low-tech, beautiful. It's awesome. I'm going to do it with my iPhone, so I'm going to hit 20 minutes right now and see what happens. All right. Good afternoon. How's everybody? Little dinner, little food. I mean, it was almost like a dinner. So now you're all going to fall asleep. I'm going to try to make that, I'll keep that from happening. I'm JP, I'm 55, almost 56 years old. I'm one of first generation gamers. I'm sorry. My first game computer was an Amstrad Schneider 64. Anybody here? Anybody? It was the German alternative for the Commodore 64. It was cheaper, and my brother and I could afford it. My dad has a link with Czechia. Who knows Jaroslav Malina, or who knows of him? My parents became friends with him in London during the Prague Spring. And my dad is a filmmaker, and he actually made a documentary on him. And he was a set designer, and if you want to hit the QR code, you can find a little trailer of it. He was a set designer, so he designed sets, and yeah, quite an amazing guy. And they happened to meet because they were all in London. He couldn't go back. They were all the same house, and they became friends. And my dad was all excited that I was going to be in Prague today. So let's talk about games. What are games today? Games, there are two ways to look at games, from the angle of play and the angle of story. They really are the evolution of story. These are my ugly little drawings, but I hope you get the point. But they're also systems of play. This is my wife, Elizabeth. We have two kids, Moritz and Lucy. They love to play. This is 5 years ago. They play outside like any normal kid should. But they also love games. This is a beautiful picture. My son is a bit of a contemplative, philosophical dude, and he happened to stand like that, and I had to hit this picture. Awesome. But so Lucy and I built castles together and stuff like that in Minecraft. This is them today. Typical teenagers. You could just, that attitude, right? It's there. We, world builders, we build games based on reality. Just like any storytelling, all our stories are based on reality. My background is industrial design, so I started, I had a 4-year degree in industrial design. Before that, I did 3.5 years of mechanical engineering in the US. My mom's from the US, my dad's from Dutch. I'm a dual citizen, so in the name of the other half of America, I apologize. But I graduated in 98 from the Design Academy, and I wanted to combine the two studies. And I loved math, and I loved the shapes that math produces. And since we have always used principles as an inspiration, I thought, what about these cool formulas? And so I used 3D software, Blender. I interned at Blender in 1997. It's one of the well-known free software tools, open source, and it's actually from Eindhoven, the Netherlands. And I built this little math thing, and Ton Roosendaal, the guy who wrote Blender, made a special little plugin for me to plug in formulas, and I would see if I liked the shape, and then I would see if I could make something out of it. It's kind of a fun project. Then I became a set designer for games. So because of that 3-day knowledge, does anybody recognize what this might be? Any Germans here? This is Hamburg, Speicherstadt, and it's in a game that we produced. Then I worked on some mobile games, small Nokia games, you know, like pixel stuff. Then I produced a game with a team called My Horse and Me. We produced that and delivered a game on PC and V. Meanwhile, I was not an artist anymore. I was a producer and a business developer. And we sold the game to Atari. And what I love about games is we create worlds that are coming alive and that you can interact with. That's what makes games so exciting. This is our story. We started up Dutch Game Garden. I joined a half year after it was launched. If you want this link, this is the book, so you can read all about it. So I could actually stop presenting right now if you all read this. I can go away, you could read it, and then we can do questions. There's a movie that we made when we closed down our organization, and I'm going to show you. It's 3 little clips, and I'm going to talk in between a little bit if the audio permits me. Oh, it's not working. Wait, come on. Let's try it again. Yeah, there we go. So these are 3 little clips that we made to kind of summarize our experience. We had 4 buildings in our history. We always had to move, because the rent would go up and then we'd find a new place. I can see somebody smiling. Who knows what that's like? This is Victor. He hired me. I was the industry guy. He was a gamer, and he was a master in sort of stakeholder management, politics, and I learned a lot from him. 6 years later, he left, and I took over as managing director. I came from the industry. But I learned a lot from him. This is actually a well-known Dutch writer and TV personality living in Utrecht. And he's totally not a gamer, but he was really interested. This is, did you see that guy? The NATO guy? That was our prime minister. Now now you can say the NATO guy visited our offices. So we had different spaces. The last one was a campus. We moved into here on the 2nd week of lockdown. That's why we had our event digital. Interesting experience. These are all the incubation managers. I was the first one. And we basically helped young startups with entrepreneurship. The thing with young people is they don't know what they don't know. Anybody here in education knows exactly what I'm talking about. So they think they know. That's the problem. So when you give them advice, even though you're supposedly an experienced guy, they don't listen. But you have to sort of make it visual, and you have to remind them, and you have to go with them. Incubation is not a fast process. It's a process of patience, love, and sharing experiences and getting people in. So we have a lot of Dutch industry experts who are always willing to share their time. By tenants, we mean renting. We always mixed the experience with the inexperience. So we were not from the program where you only in the building if you are an incubator. We basically did it for everybody. We also did a lot of research projects. We did events. Indigo is kind of our GDS. Pavel, where are you? I know your pain. Pavel's been doing it for 22 years, we were just talking. We managed 15 years. This is our main primary business event in the Netherlands for games. The first time I actually came here was thanks to Bavel. He invited me 2018, and then I came and spoke at GDS, which is a similar event, and I'm really glad that it seems to be doing well here. We also did some extra trips to GDC, promoting Dutch game industry. We did a lot of game jams. It's a great way to innovate. It's a great way for new people to meet each other. It's a great way for people who are outside participating. And you can even mix professionals with students. It's like a hackathon. You create a game in 48 hours. And it's really, there's some companies came out of it. And some really successful games have come out of it. We did a network lunch. Network lunch is probably our most simple and most effective tool. Always first Wednesday of the month, same time, same place. We've done it for 15 years. And it's continued. Friends of ours have taken it over. We also produced a monitor, which is the report. Normally the branch organization does that, but ours was so small that they couldn't do it. But we're handing it to them now. Then the last clip. This was Dutch Game Garden. Can you turn up the music a little bit? A little more? This is the scene. This is the people. You can turn it up a little more. Hello? Yoo-hoo! This is one of our board members. He's an experienced serious game developer. He develops stuff for the medical industry. Quite cool stuff. Yeah. It's an amazing scene. I don't know many friendlier people in the game industry, at least maybe I have nothing to compare it to, but I really love the people. And these are all my colleagues in certain times. This was the first crew before I came. Board members and staff and consultants. This was Indigo. Meet to Match, some of you may know it. And we decided that even though the funding was ended because one of our stakeholders decided to have a 180-degree different approach to innovation in the region, and it didn't match with us, we could have complained and whined and cried. Well, we cried a little bit, but we were also very grateful because 17 years of public funding is a privilege as far as I'm concerned. So if you're allowed to use it, be happy. And if you lose it, well, move on. And we are moving on, but we are really happy with what we've done. And I've, of course, thought every day for the last couple of years how I could solve the funding issue. Maybe for the last 10 years I've been thinking about that. So I'm going to share some experiences and some things that may be useful for you. So when I ask you an engine, what name and part in an engine? Anybody? Piston? Crankshaft? Nobody mentions oil. Nobody. But that's what we do. Ecosystem builders, and that's for all of you. We're the invisible thing. If you ask, nobody knows what they're doing. Dutch Game Garden? I don't know what they do, but they're everywhere. But I don't know exactly what they do. Well, you make the system go smoother and faster. We're kind of in the same space as these in Sweden. Sweden was actually the first one to have an actual dedicated game incubator worldwide. Game BCN, Barcelona, Game Hub Denmark. We've done projects with them, European projects, great people. Gameplay Spaces was in Toronto, but they actually folded as well. Of course, COVID and rent, and it was complicated. We were funded primarily from an economic perspective. So we're kind of a cultural organization with economic money. I think it was Agatha as well, saying, when we showed up, we were like the last in line, and all the other cultural parties were not happy with us also trying to go for money. Like film, theater, they were also in trouble 10 years ago, and we couldn't join that and ask for money as well. So we never spent too much time. We basically stuck with the Ministry of Economics, which means KPIs, future jobs, innovation, entrepreneurship. Sometimes you can write a grant where the word innovation, and if you transfer the grant to the creative industry, you just replace innovation with creative, and then there you go. But anyway, this is something that I've learned. You don't have to do it all. You have to create a setting, a place, and the community will accelerate itself. Then, in discussions with province, primarily province, They asked us, can you not turn this into a commercially independent organization? Me coming from a commercial background, I was curious because I could not say no necessarily. I knew it would be hard. So we tried all sorts of stuff, and we tried to move from the bottom left into the top right. Now, the most successful thing actually was agency. That actually worked out quite well. It was basically taking a lead fee for every introduction we make. We'd take 5%. If somebody got a gig from us for 100,000, we would take 5%. That actually was great. But if that had been the way to fund the thing, I would have had to focus full time on that. And I would have to drop all the other things. Otherwise, you know, when you're a commercial company, you have to focus. You can't do everything. You have to focus. After 4 years, we agreed together with the province that we should be funded publicly. Otherwise, we could not do all the other things that we were doing. Plus, there a state aid issue arose. There was some fear at the legal department in province. They thought funding an incubator was illegal state aid, total baloney, but they believed it. And we got the biggest expert in state aid in the Netherlands who wrote the book that students in the Netherlands get in law school. He said it's 5% economic activities, what you do, 95 not, and they wouldn't believe him. He advises the national government, still 2 little junior legal advisors at the province thought that they knew better. Cost us 4 years of stress. We did take a little share in a cool company that came out of a game guy with pixel knowledge, and down the road, he designed a digital fingerprinting system that connects images online to contracts. And that's very interesting. So we took a share in that, which I'm trying to sell now because we have to close. It's a shame because we've invested 9 years in it, and I have a feeling it's gonna actually make money in the next 2 years. So I'm trying to give it to or sell it to our local regional economic board. We have a 4.57 share, and you know, who knows, that blows up. That was our exit strategy. That was where we were going to get funding for our organization. So join it. It's cool. You can book a demo. It's quite cool. So that was part of our efforts to do basically commercial activities. So we have the foundation, then we have a BV, which in the Netherlands is kind of like an Inc. For business. And we have a 4.57 whatever share in this little guy here. And we're going to try and get rid of it because we have to shut down. I have to sell it within 3 weeks, otherwise we're really in trouble. So back to the buildings. We had 4 offices. We had kept moving because the rent always would go up, basically. Now you also see there's one with 40 offices. Now the interesting is, I don't know if people know the Gartner hype cycle, but it's kind of, you could draw a hype cycle. In 2008, when everybody wanted to have their company, then things got tough in the industry. And then after the 40 offices thing, we went back to 25. And now we're in 20, and we should just shut that down. The cool thing is the companies are still there. So the cluster is still there. They're still together. And some of them are doing the network lunch. First 2, we were the landlords. So we rented and then sublet. But that's a lot of and that has nothing to do with games. That's a specialty that has to do with real estate and everything. So we had 1.5 FTE in this phase. The big one. Oh, wait. You know, this is... when you're this age, you have glasses, and otherwise you're... We had 1.5 FTE managing just the rental stuff. So we got rid of that. And we found the owners of those buildings willing to do the subletting themselves, the renting themselves. That saved us a lot of time and focus. We had a board member who was a real estate specialist. He was not really a subsidy guy. And he says, we had a project for 5 years, including European money, from 2010 to 2015. It was 3.5 million. And he said, why don't we use that to buy the building? And, well, that's not how it's meant to be, right? It's a European subsidy with specific rules. But if we had been able to do that, we probably would never have had needed subsidies. This is Dead Center, Utrecht, the most expensive city in the Netherlands. And it was right on the square. It was a former ABN AMRO bank building. Well, yeah, I can't blame him for thinking that. Games are quite an integration of all the existing other fields, not just digital things, but When we build games, we are little architects, we're industrial designers, we're doing everything. So it's really incorporating every other thing that you can think of. Now, ChatGPT made this for me, so don't quote me on this one. ChatGPT, to me, is like a little eager teenager wanting to help you way too fast, doesn't check the facts, but is very eager. You know what I mean? It's like always so polite and willing, but you have to check everything they're doing. It's like a bad intern. I do think games are the most scalable and sellable art form ever. This is my personal opinion, but I'd love to be challenged on it. But there's something about it. It's art plus technology plus online, therefore easy to distribute, easy to copy. Interesting. So the difference between game incubation and general normal tech startup incubation is primarily market solutions versus entertainment. Most startups in the startup scene are trying to solve a market problem. A game is not a solution to a market problem. I used to have a boss that thought that. For one of the first companies I worked for had a normal IT company, and then they did a games company, and then they had the same design processes for both. No iterations, no interaction with the target audience, no emotion. Man, I had so many fights with that guy. But we're not solving a problem, we're creating art. Music, film, they're not solving problems, they're creating an experience. That's why your incubation process is 100% different. I see somebody agreeing. Yes, I hear somebody. Yes? Amen? No. All right. So let's look at the role in the ecosystem. The building, it's wonderful to have a place. The power of proximity. When people are close like today, they meet, new ideas arise. So this is my attempt, it's almost like a strategy game, to visualize the position of Dutch Game Garden. So red is all game related. Game companies, let me see, I'm afraid to hit the wrong button. Game companies, game education. Green is normal education or whatever other education. This is other industries who might use games for serious gaming or interested in talent or whatever. And this is general government. They would all meet. And the network lunch was great. Every time I got so many emails. In the beginning, I answered every email, right? And then after a while, you're like, if I keep doing this, I'm just going to be answering emails all day. But how do I politely decline? That's hard when you're publicly funded, right? Then we decide, oh, you know, we're just going to invite them to the network lunch. Perfect. So every month, network lunch between 12 and 2, every first Wednesday. That solved my email problem. But usually a lot of people asking for help, they want to talk to you and they book an hour. But what they really need is to talk to these 3 people. You can introduce them and you only talk to them for 1 minute. And they leave with 3 business cards. So that's really a great way to be efficient. So we rented to everybody, experienced and inexperienced companies. So having an experienced game developer next to a student startup was perfect. We did incubation for everybody who's willing to join and travel. We had a program that was once a month, full day, including network lunch. So again, you can connect everything. Every first Wednesday of the month, it was network lunch plus incubation. Then, let's see, then we helped the regional companies a lot of matchmaking, and they would sponsor us. So there was a warm relationship. It's kind of like having everybody in Prague be connected to your hub. It's wonderful. Then we matched a lot of talent through the Netherlands. We were kind of a knowledge center for everybody who had questions about games. And we helped the Dutch government with international acquisition. Sometimes they would have people that would hear of an American or an Asian company wanting to set up in Europe. And then, of course, all those reps from all these European countries start fighting to see who has the coolest country. And we helped with that. And then our events, Indigo, really helped the international game industry to connect, because the game industry is super, super international. It makes no sense for a Dutch developer to make a game in Dutch first. No Dutch developer makes their first game in Dutch. It's always English, because our market is the world. And the biggest markets are the English-speaking nations. So we have to do business with international publishers, international investment companies. And so Yeah, that's why you have to create a gateway to your region. So I've thought about a metaphor, you know, what are we? Dutch Game Garden was like a club sandwich. Who likes a club sandwich? Yes? It's got a little bit of everything. And for a commercial company, that's a bad thing. For a foundation trying to help a community of a really interesting market, it's a good thing. And so I thought of this club sandwich. And my colleagues and I, Crystal, JP, Tom, and Krista, we were the pins connecting everything. You get it? Yes? Because we were in so many layers, we always knew a lot, and we could make even more connections because we were all connected. So we knew if somebody was working on a new project, we knew if somebody was looking for a programmer, we knew government was coming up with a new program. We were always the first. We were always the first to know because we knew everybody and we were always connected. It's really, it's fun. I like connecting people and I like helping people. And it's fun when you're well informed because you become the hub that's well informed. Now, this is our cash flow for the last 11 years. Can you see why I'm showing it to you? Red line is 0. So, we had 4 times where we weren't sure if we could pay the salaries of our team ourselves. It's the kind of discussion where Crystal and I would be like, we're not going to pay them because they'll wait. We'll pay them because otherwise we get into trouble. That kind of thing. We had that 4 times within a period of 4 or 5 years. And it certainly didn't help. It's mentally draining because what you're doing is you're spending most of your time hustling for money instead of focusing on your tasks. And it kind of handicaps your effectivity. Also, again, a state issue, whatever. That's why I'll explain it. It felt like driving into a traffic light with red light and then hoping it would turn green at the last minute. And all 4 times it did turn green at the last minute. But that's kind of stressful. It's playing chicken with basically your life. So what happened was we used to get funded in blocks of 4 years. But because of a de minimis issue, I used to think it was called mini-me. I didn't know de minimis. So de mini-me, you know, from that Austin Powers, but no. There was an issue with that, and then all of a sudden the province started funding us for per year, plus they wouldn't approve the funding until June of the year that we were spending it. And the reason we didn't, the town saved us. They saved our cash flow. But this is stressful, as you can imagine. So what we learned is try to have at least 3 sources of funding. And I mean foundational funding, not project funding. Because if something fades, we used to have EU and national, there were no programs after a while, so we did it with both the city and the province, and that worked really well for a while. And then all of a sudden last year they announced, yeah, we're going to change everything. And we knew there was some change coming, but they just shut down the entire funding. They killed our subsidy relation, as they call it. And they said, you have till January 1st. And of course, I had been hustling with national government for years to see if we could solve all this issue. But anyway, try to create a tripod of financial funding. Lobby, lobby, lobby. I looked it up in Czech, meaning meet, make friends, meet, make friends. I should have spent more time in The Hague. I should have even spent more time. I was keeping up with 20 people actively in our region, but so. Do you know where the word comes from? It's kind of cool. It's from a lobby of a hotel where one of the first presidents, I think he's the one who invented it. So we're proud of this result. It was with 3.8 FTE on average. There's not just one way to do it. You can do it in many ways. We did it one way. Everybody can find their own way. I'm excited to hear about other people's ways. I'm going to go back to the math thing. Now that I don't have a job anymore, maybe I can make this chair, and I have a little more money than I used to when I was a student. I encourage you to go to Indigo, and it's kind of like the GDS of the Netherlands. And let's see what happened to my... Oh, I went way over, didn't I? If you want to link me, this is my LinkedIn, and you can send me a message if you want the presentation. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I also played on Commodore. I also use Commodore. I think it's a very important thing to play on stuff like that, because I think in that era games were taken more seriously. Because
That's funny that you say that.
You were sitting behind a table, and if you know what Commodore is, it was a huge keyboard with a huge box of huge floppy disks, and you looked like someone in the office. And it looks like an important stuff to do. So even if I was a 5-year-old or 7-year-old, parents were like, "Wow, he's so talented."
Yeah.
Oh, what is that thing, Mario? Yeah, it's very important stuff. Now it's not taken that seriously.
It's very true what you say.
Yeah, it looked like...
It was mainstream in the 80s, and then it became niche in the 90s, and now it's mainstream again.
Kids in the middle of the office. Yeah. So it was cool. And I have, before we start with the panel discussion, I have one question for you, which I have my answer for, but I would like to ask you if game industry is it art or tech?
It's both.
It's both, yeah, I
absolutely.
agree. Yeah, but I think it's a little bit more of art, because you create a game, but you have to be creative after when you play it. When you play the game, you're still creative. You're still in the
middle of the creative process.
Yeah? Yes, you have to solve stuff. And even if we're talking about the Commodore, you have to create a world for someone to play in, and you can find your own way how to go through the world, and it's still true, even if you talk about Cyberpunk or other mainstream games, huge blockbusters, it's still the true. You still have to create your way through the game, and you can create videos about the games, etc., etc., Twitch, streaming, everything. So you are creating new platforms for people being creative in their own way. So it is, of course, art and tech, as we will talk in a few minutes. So I would like to invite you to the panel discussion. Another member of the discussion is Agata Esnamovic. You can meet her during the morning keynote. So I would like to invite her. If you missed the morning keynote, she's an expert in cultural management and one of keynote speakers, of course. So thank you for your time again. And I would like to also invite Pavel Barák from Association of Czech Game Developers, David Severa from Kunst Brno, and Katarzyna Kuba-Sanioca from Creative Prague and Prague Innovation Institute. Welcome here in camp. And I would like to ask David for his 5-minute presentation.
I think there's a presentation of Pavel Barák, though.
Yes, Pavel Barák.
So, hello everybody. Thanks for inviting me to the panel. I will briefly introduce our association and also the problems in the industry that you just heard from JP, the games industry. So, I won't talk much about me, but more about our association, Czech Game Developers Association. I'm chairman of that organization. We are an industry association. We represent game development studios. We got currently 31 members, which are mainly the biggest studios in Czech Republic. So even though around 30, that's not that many studios, but our members represent more than 85% of the overall turnover of the industry. So we quite heavily represent the majority. Our main focus is to promote and improve the game development industry and the situation of the studios, which mainly focused on human resources, on the people. That's the main issue in the industry. I will talk about it later. So to improve and get more people into the industry, we work quite a lot on educational projects with universities and so on. If you would like to know more about what we do, it's on the website gda.cz. I will tell you a little bit about the data of the industry, which will point out what are the issues that we actually see. Every year we gather and do a mapping of the industry and gather lots of data about the companies and the situation. So these are just some of the key figures. Currently there is over 160 studios in Czech Republic, and these studios generate nearly close to 300 million euros. It's going to be 300, hopefully more in 2025. It used to be more, but we got some issues that sometimes the companies become so big that they got attention from huge international companies like Facebook, for this example. So one of our biggest studios was completely acquired by Meta at some point. That's the game, the Beat Saber, and therefore there is a drop in 2022 in the turnover because Meta decided at the time, even though they bought the studio in 2020, that they will take the profits and the revenues through Meta system, through US company, not the Czech one anymore. Only like 1/4 is going through the Czech company. But what is more important on this slide and the data is actually the increases of the studios. That's one of the issues that we are seeing every year, that not that many startups are being established as we would like to see. For the size of the Czech Republic, we would like to see like 20, 30 new companies every year, not like 7, 8. That's, I would say, underperforming. Also, the budget. You see, this is for 2022, and at that time we were counting still 300 million because of the Meta issue. But if you look at Sweden, Finland, countries that are actually smaller than Czech Republic, you see a huge difference. Of course, also Poland, that used to be lower in revenues and turnover than Czech Republic like 15 years ago, is quite far from us nowadays, because even though the industry in Czech Republic is growing pretty fast, since we started measuring it in 2017, it actually tripled in size. The Poland grew even faster, and our ideal state is to be way closer to the Nordic countries, which we see as like inspiration. In terms of the amount of people, that's probably not that interesting for this panel and talk, but nowadays 2,700 people working in the industry. Again, you can see a little problem here, that the amount of new jobs opened by the companies is way higher than the increase every year, because companies are unable to fulfill the positions because the lack of talent. So that brings us to the problems in the industry, and the first one is what I just mentioned, the lack of talent, but also very, very small percentage of newly established startups. We closely work with many universities. We are trying to help them in some of the programs. At Charles University, they've been running a program for 10 years. That one of the subjects is to simulate a gaming studio. They form a student team, and we are helping them to bring mentors. So in this 10 years period, there was like 50, 70 student teams created, but we've seen none of them that actually form a company afterwards. And we see that as a huge problem, because there is something missing in the ecosystem. And also not that many, these micro companies, which is the majority of studios that are 1 or 2 people or 3 people, very rarely, and in recent years, it's close to none, transform into this like mid-sized studio, so studio that would generate like 2 million euros. And the reasons for it are also hinting the solutions. We need, of course, better education and new programs at university. I think this is improving quite significantly. We also need private educational courses, which we are lacking quite a lot, and the reason is to do some private courses is quite expensive for the end customer, so there should be some public support. This is also improving and changing. The topic, quite relevant to this panel, we need these creative centers
and for us, game dev centers that would work with the students and graduates and help them to form the companies, which is one of the key problems. And also the problem is funding. We are working not only on public funding, which right now is also changing because of the audiovisual fund, but also bringing quite a more private investors, VC funds, and these sort of companies and people to Czech Republic. As was mentioned in the keynote, it's quite international industry, so there are not that many angel investors and VCs in Czech Republic, but that's not a problem. We need to bring more investors. But for the sake of this panel, the incubation and acceleration programs and centers are the most important right now if we want to see more studios and companies to being built. That's all from me. Thank you, and you can check more on the links.
Thank you very much. And now we will continue with 5 minutes for David Severa.
Okay, thank you. Hi. I'll just walk over here. Okay, anyone still up after lunch? It's nice to see you. My name's David. I come from Brno. I come in peace. I'm coming to tell you about a creative hub which we run in Brno. It's not a creative center. It's not a cultural center. It's a creative hub. So what is it? So I'm going to show you. I'm going to start with some pretty pictures. In case you haven't been in Brno, I'm not frowning upon you, but please do come. This is our wonderful place at Údolní Street, which used to be a former art school. Fine art school, and it's been 4 years ago redeveloped into a creative hub. Sometimes it looks like a cultural center. There is a lot of events happening, like 190 events a year, which brings in about 10,000 visitors. But our main focus is on entrepreneurial know-how, so giving creatives the right business know-how to succeed. This is just some more of stuff you can find inside. We combine the events with networking and, of course, co-working places, offices, and studios you can run. We also have a Fab Lab, which is a digital laboratory when you can prototype your stuff before you put it out. And we just recently opened a gaming incubator of our own. Now I'm going to get into some whys. The first of them is people. I will borrow the piece from Agata. She used them before. But first is people. From mapping of culture industries that we just finished comes this huge number, 18,000 people in the so-called Brno region or South Moravian region come from creative and cultural industries. That's huge. It makes us third region in the Czech Republic with the highest number. 2.6 billion Czech crowns just illustrate one of our biggest industries, which is of course gaming. It's just one scope of it all. But at the same time, if we talk to the creatives and find, the opportunities, most of them say that they lack some certain elements of business knowledge or business know-how, especially in the departments of management, marketing, legal, taxes, and financial skills. And that's where we come in. We are the interconnection of Kunst, where we take, it's a German word for art, but we like to view it as creativity or creative industries, and Kunst, a wonderful Czech German word for practical know-how. We like to view it as business know-how, and that's where it's Kunst. We work with 3 types of people. Usually we start with prototyping and validating the ideas. That's where usually students come in. We do it in groups. We have online e-learning. Anyone actually from anywhere in Czech Republic can join our e-learning programs because they run in hybrid. Then we have on-site lectures, and what is best in this phase is group learning, where people are sharing how they view their ideas, and they iterate and iterate until they actually get to Zalo Studio, where they are actually established in a studio. Once they have the studio, they have the first meetings, they have the first people who actually buy something from them. We move into startup phase, which is more intense. We have incubation programs. One of them is Booster, which is basically consultations with two mentors, and we help them to fundraise and launch. And then once they become bigger companies, we work with them on a scale-up basis, which is individual consultations with senior experts. I will give you some examples of the 4 groups that we mainly focus in this year. First of all is sustainable and social design. So you can see some wonderful examples like plastic guys who upcycle plastic leftovers into these beautiful, beautiful desks, or airbags. Each car, it contains about 10 to 15 airbags depending on the car type, and once you put the car out of the business into wreckage, you can't use it anymore. So these wonderful ladies are making airbags out of it. Then it's architecture. There's almost 3,000 architects. We were joking with Agatha how many we can compare. But obviously architecture doesn't look the most scalable, but it actually is. One of our bigger clients is Chybí and Christoph. They've just opened a branch in London. And then, of course, is this huge bracket of digital reality where is gaming and audiovisual. Here you can see some examples of the games from our incubator. My favorite ones, okay, I will say two. Morning Tide was made in just 2 weeks during a game jam that was happening. It's from students from high school, from SŠUD, and it's this amazing horror game. It has been played by Markiplier, one of the biggest game influencers there is. And my personal favorite, Kikiriki Game Studios, they're making inclusive games that can play both people with visual impairment and people who don't have visual impairments. And last but not least is Creative and Tech. Because we're founded by the South Moravian Innovation Center, we try to find overlaps between the creative and technology, which is one of the bigger domains. So one of our clients is, for example, Capnetics, who is doing motion tracking data, basically cleaning the data faster if you're shooting next Avatar or your next computer games. Or my personal favorite, Trebledu Studio, who are making AI to make your sound brand. And that's the final part that I would dig in really quickly. Kunst is an example of Creative Hub, which is founded by the South Moravian Innovation Center. We're co-founded by South Moravian Region, Brno, and 4 universities. So basically, we can get the knowledge that's been here for 20 years, because JIC was doing business consultations for more than 20 years for technology companies, and we just rebrand them and rework them for Kunst, and for creative industries, and for gaming in GameBase. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. And I would like to give a floor to Katarzyna for 5 minutes.
Dobrý den. Já pro změnu budu mluvit česky. Tak dobrý den, já se jmenuji Kateřina Kouba-Sanojca a jsem zde za 2 městské organizace. V Kreativní Praze pracuji jako projektová manažerka pro rozvoj kulturních a kreativních odvětví a taky zastávám pozici race developerky v Pražském inovačním centru, což je podobné centrum, jak vlastně JIC v Brně. Obě ty pozice spojuje to, že mají na starosti podporu kulturních a kreativních odvětví. První z nich, Pražský inovační institut, se zaměřuje víc na inovace. V této chvíli propojujeme spousta aktérů. Samozřejmě nemáme takovou historii jako JIC, ale snažíme se v rámci jako pražských možností propojovat aktéry, podporovat nápady, propojovat ekosystém. V Kreativní Praze více zaměřujeme na systémovou podporu kreativců v rámci jako odolností, konkurenceschopností sektoru, což hlavně znamená třeba spousta mezinárodních projektů zaměřených na vzdělávání. Není třeba už, jako dneska to padalo 100krát, připomínat, jak velký vliv mají kulturní a kreativní odvětví nejenom vlastně na náš sektor, ale i na ty ostatní, na posílení konkurenceschopností, na business dopady, třeba jaký má design. Takový přesně krásný slide shrnující, jako vlastně, co všechno může design dokázat. Jsme zapojeni do několika evropských iniciativ, třeba projektu Cyanotype, který jako vzdělává a poskytuje různé jako podpůrné dokumenty a sítě v rámci toho, jakým způsobem vzdělávat a posilovat kulturní a kreativní sektor. Jsme v projektu Sakord, který se zaměřuje na reskilling a upskilling kreativců, ale taky řeší praktické věci, jako třeba mikrocertifikáty, jakým způsobem je využívat pro náš sektor a jakým způsobem nastavovat, aby měli co největší dopady. V rámci toho projektu taky snažíme se vytvářet tady různé lokální synergie a propojovat aktéry a vlastně i ráda bych vás pozvala na velkou mezinárodní konferenci, která bude probíhat v září, kde přijede spousta evropských aktérů. Myslím, že jsou tady i projekty nebo organizace, které se hlásí, aby mohly prezentovat v rámci té konferenci. Bude to skvělá příležitost i pro networking, i pro sdílení vlastně příkladu dobré praxe z celé Evropy na téma vzdělávání kreativců. A teď praktická věc, o které se takhle jakoby bavíme tady. Tento rok v létě by měl být spouštěn první pilotní pražský akcelerátor pro gaming, který řešíme s odborem projektového řízení a odborem kultury a asociací herních vývojářů právě s Pavlem. A doufáme, že je to takové první ukázka, jakým způsobem studenty vlastně do toho zapojit, poskytnout jim třeba finanční podporu, mentoring, vzdělávání, propojit s lidma z industry, aby měli jako co největší přínos, aby právě ty nova studia, nové projekty vznikaly a nekončily třeba jenom jako projekt na vysoké škole. A samozřejmě aktuální je to i v kontextu toho prostoru. Tady máme třeba ukázku, jak teď vypadá Orionka, jak by třeba mohla do budoucna vypadat a přijde nám, že Praha opravdu potřebuje takový prostor, kde se budou se potkávat kreativci, ale i s biznesem, budou získávat tady ty potřebné znalosti, nejenom ty, které jsou potřeba teď, ale i ty, které budou potřebovat za chvíli na tom pracovním trhu, který se velmi rychle mění a my budeme moci jim to poskytnout. Děkuju.
So thank you very much. Now we would like to continue with the panel discussion, and I would like to, of course, offer you to ask questions during the discussion. So if anyone will have a question and raise his hand or her hand, my colleague will pass you a microphone and you can join the discussion. Of course, you can use a Slido. There should be a link or QR code that will lead you to Slido, which is a very simple app, and you can input your question, and I will see it here on my tablet, and I will ask our guests. We mentioned one thing that was in the first presentation of these short 5 presentations, that was the education. I would like to, of course, ask if we are missing something in the education, because I'm lucky enough to have some extremely successful creative people around me, and if I mention that they learned all important things out of the school, it won't be a surprise. So if there's something that we can do to accommodate the needed things, needed skills into our education in a moment when these people came up with their ideas and they will use what they learned in school, what's your opinion on that?
Oh, can I start? Well, I think there's 2 important aspects. One is most of the education for games is focused on the creation, and that's good. It's usually some IT, then some design and industrial design, UX design compared to, for interactivity. One thing that's usually ignored is the business side. So in the Netherlands, we have like 40 institutions doing dedicated game programs. None of them teach business. Now, I don't know what it's about here, so that's something that you guys can answer, but that's our weakness in the Netherlands, because people who run MBA programs say, oh, it's for everybody. But seriously, the game industry is so particular that I think if the Netherlands wants to accelerate the growth and quality of games companies, they need to invest in at least a master's for game business. So that's my opinion.
Okay, because we mix. I mean, we call them residents, which I think that it also tells you something about how we approach it. And we are not, because I haven't mentioned that earlier, we are not like a typical, let's say, incubator. So normally, and according to the definition, you measure the success of the incubating by the number of enterprises, entrepreneurs, companies who will leave the walls of the incubator and they can survive out there in a wild. Yeah, we don't do it this way. That was the idea, but then we changed because we thought, going back to your question and connecting it, that we want to give people 2 years of the safe space for them to learn, check if they want to be entrepreneurs. So for them to experiment, then fell flat on their face, get up or not, and it was very much, my task was to be a mentor to them. And a part of this was also, showing them how to think strategically, connect with their audiences or clients, whatever, strategize and so on. And it was our first patch. We're going towards the end of the 2 years of incubation, and there's one designer, jewelry and accessories designer, upcycling, doing beautiful things. She runs to me, hugs me in front of my dear friends and boss at the same time, and she goes like, "Thank you. Now I know that I don't, thanks to you, now I know that I don't want to be an entrepreneur." And he's telling like, "Great job, really, considering that we're doing an incubation for entrepreneurs. Like, great job, Agata, thank you." And but this was the learning. It's not for some people, and people should have a safe space also to discover it. She's happy. She's doing an amazing job now. She's great. She was also very talented as a designer, but she's much better in what she does now. So I think that I wouldn't go for masters. I'm sorry, but I don't believe. I believe in learning. I don't believe in education. I always say this, also in terms of culture sector, to create spaces for people to learn. None of us, I think, learned how to run our culture centers during studies. I studied something completely different. I learned everything that I know by doing. Making mistakes, getting up, reading, of course, yes, talking to people, learning from others, but learning by doing. And I don't think that this is something that you can really effectively learn in school. I think that it might be, it would be great if it's there, but it shouldn't be the only place. So this is one of the things that we offer, that this is the part of the education that we offer, that we support them with legal base and the cushion to fall on in this sense, but we also train them in that aspect.
I mean, I do believe that learning, I'm doing something completely different than what I studied, but the study did teach me design principles and taught me how to look. And that serves me even now, still, but it had nothing to do with games. I think we have to make a distinction between entrepreneurship and management skills. A lot of MBAs teach management skills and some leadership stuff. But a good entrepreneur, in the end, will need management skills. And there are so many necessary for this complex digital industry of games that it does serve you well to have some hard management skills to serve you as an entrepreneur. I must say, people with an MBA are not necessarily entrepreneurs. And I know a lot of game developers who are really good entrepreneurs, even though they just went to an art school, because it's a mentality. Entrepreneurship is more of a mentality and maybe a personality than say, a management degree. So that's one thing. I think most of the developers I work with are really artists. There's one American game developer, he's nearing 70, which is rare in the game industry. So he was there early. And he came to our school and he said, the reason I became an entrepreneur is because it allowed me to make the games that I want to make. And I think that is a really key thing, because entrepreneurship for him is a means to an end, it's not a goal. Whereas some people who just like making money or being entrepreneurs because they like that sort of aspect, and they don't care whether they sell potatoes or iPhones. I know those people, and they're good too. They love it, and some of them are very creative in how they solve their business problems, but they're not artists. And so I think we're in a tension here, and I think we're trying to help people be good entrepreneurs, and hard management skills are part of that.
We have seen that there are more professions we need when we are talking about art industry, and the safe space is maybe a good idea or a good name for it, because you have someone who is passionate for the thing, but he finds himself not being a developer or entrepreneur, but maybe he's attracted to legislation or other stuff, and that stuff is needed during the development. So maybe he finds himself the ecosystem that he likes, but he can find a better match for himself. For example, I would would be a terrible architect, but I would like to talk about it every night here in camp, so it's perfect for me. So do you agree with that, that you have another professions and topics that you can be focused on during the working in the Creative Center, for example, Creative Hub?
Yeah, like the education, which I mentioned in my short presentation. Obviously, I see it through the game development point of view, which I guess that's not the case for quite a lot of people here that are not from that particular industry, and we are in, I would say, quite different position than many other creative and cultural industries. The industry is really looking for a lot of people, and the main issue is that there is like certain amount of graduates, and the companies are looking for way more people. For example, we really work with FAMO to establish the new program, but the program that's like 5 to 7 students per year, 5 to 7 students, and that's like the biggest art academy in Czech Republic, and the companies want hundreds of people, so there is big disproportion. But I know that this is quite unique for our case. That's not the case for many others, and also the games industry can take the people. I would agree that the entrepreneurial part that's missing, that's why we work with City of Prague and Pražský inovační institute, Prague Innovation Institute, on the acceleration that should bring more these soft skills, but also these business skills, entrepreneurial skills, and other fields that are not covered at schools. This is also true for Czech Republic, that we don't teach business for, I would say, creative industries at all. For example, we work with quite a lot of universities in Czech Republic, but these are artistic universities like FAMU or the university in Zlín, Tomáš Baťa, or Pilsen University, and technical universities like Charles University, VUT, ČVUT, in Liberec, in Ostrava. But we don't work with VŠE. For some reason, we never been approached, and we never approached them for some reason. So the production, and this is not just for games, for movies and music as well. You can study production, movie production, but the games production, it's I don't think so. Even though the FAMU program is sort of called games production a little bit, but it's not. It's covering just the development part, not how the market works and these sort of things. So this is lacking quite a lot, and therefore there are these private courses, but there are not that many of them because of some other reasons, like for example that this is way too expensive, and in Czech case people are not used to invest in themselves, in their education, quite a lot of money because of the free education, and we are used to it. So when somebody tell you that this 2 weeks course will cost 100,000 or something like that, it's unimaginable for quite a lot of people. But this is also changing, and the education, or improving, changing in a good way. So even this, there is like lots of support.
Pavel, David wants to say something.
You're looking out for me. Nice. I would love to say that 3 out of the main Brno universities actually have courses on the entrepreneurial know-how, but I would be very careful with the glamorization of business in schools, because we've tried that branch. It's not like one size fits all, and I don't think everyone should be a business entrepreneur, and please don't be. We spoke before with Agata about what we call killing puppies, which is basically where you iterate the design process, and at some certain point you find out you don't have the necessary skills, you don't have the target groups and everything, and it's totally okay. We told that one of the KPIs should be actually how many puppies we killed, because it's legitimate. It's legitimate.
I'm a dog lover. I just wanted to state it. I love dogs.
Okay, we can kill kitties.
Some puppies make a lot of money. Minecraft was somebody's puppy.
But at the same time, the university courses are not often visited by the creatives, and I think that's kind of open in one domain, and it's obvious, like creativity and business, there is still a tension between it. So we have to find the communication points that actually work for it. For example, in our case, it's inviting the designers who are kind of doing business, and they, you sort of put the people in the radiation of these people who are actually doing the business and just see if it happens. Like you can't force it as much as you can in the tech industries.
How many dedicated game development programs do you have in Czechoslovakia that are really for game? There you get a degree with the word game in it.
I think Pavel would be better.
There is like 10 to 15 university programs right now. It's quite a lot. It really improved in the last 10 years. So basically all the major universities that I mentioned got some programs, and we right now quite focused on working even with high schools. So there are even high schools.
So full bachelor degrees and master degrees with game development or game something?
It depends. Like for example, you can study bachelor degree at Czech Technical University, master degree only.
And are they evenly spread across the country? Like if you live somewhere, you can always attend the school easily?
Not really. The games industry is quite heavily focused for two centers, Prague and Brno, and therefore the universities in these two cities mainly cover that. We are aware that there is something that started recently at Baňská University in Ostrava, and of course there is like animation and games production in Pilsen.
It's a good idea to start at high school level, because game development is quite a technical skill, and the younger you start, the better. Some of the best developers we worked with started developing games when they were like 11.
Exactly, like the guys who I told you about, the Morningside Studios, they're kids in my opinion. They're in high school, and it's super nice that they're able to do like a global project. At the same time, the gaming companies that are already in the region are already communicating with high schoolers because the lack of people in the industries, which is really interesting.
Do you have a problem with, for example, conservatism of parents towards a game degree? Like you used to have with art degrees? No, you should be an engineer, or you know what I mean? Like in the Netherlands, there's always some certain parents who are like, "Meh, that's not a career, son."
You just tell them that you study art, or you just tell them that you study, engineering.
So art is seen as a positive thing.
Just kidding. No, but it's still, for some it is probably.
Honey, I want you to have a job later.
I don't think that we have studies that are covering it.
Well, that's the thing. There was probably no research in that way, but what we can see, every university that started this type of program, there was a huge demand for it. So this was not like that they hardly fulfill it, and there is huge overlap. The FAMU, I don't know, they got 50 people applying for it, and they are accepting only 7. So demand is there.
What about the acceptance of games as a medium in general?
Who's moderating this?
I'm sorry. I'm not moderating. I'm asking questions.
I would like to give a word to Katarzyna, but the thing that you mentioned there is a problem in the Czech Republic, that we still think about education as a linear period from when you are in your 15s or something like that, and you continue to 26. That's it. And you should not have any breaks there. You should follow the path of your parents that they wish for you, and after that you're finished and you can continue with your dream job, for example. But the question about the education for you too.
I wanted to address the thing that you actually said already, which is like when we talk about the education, we tend to think about students of the educational institutions or some courses, but I think it's really important to say also that the market is changing, the needs are changing, and lifelong learning it's really becoming more and more important to keep up. To not, I cannot imagine being a creative and not using the AI at the moment, because now it's not really something what we can do. It's something that is kind of like necessary to do. So to build the resilience of the sector, it's really important to have the good quality courses and to have the good selection of them, to have them implemented in the universities in more flexible ways, for example, using the micro-certifications, to actually listen what the market or the people needs and design the courses what they are what are needed. So I think this is still really important, and also the role for the creative centers.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask you if you have any questions. So if someone would like to ask something, please raise your hand and my colleague will pass you a microphone. Anyone? No? So we have a question on Slido. That is something that we can follow the topic that we opened already. What place should the public sector take in this entire process of supporting creativity? Is it the creative centers or is it somewhere else? We, as you can see, people who are focused on creativity and creative centers and supporting it, they already know what to do. But what about the public sector?
I think the starting point is to facilitate the discussion with the public sector. What do actually they want from the creative centers? Like get into what is, because even from the discussions before, there is a huge difference between creative centers, cultural centers, creative hubs. There are, and usually when we spoke to some of the cities that want to do something like Kunst, and once you actually talk to them, that it's more about the business development. In our case, they say, oh, that's not what we were actually looking for. So there are many ways to do it. So I think the starting point is facilitate with the stakeholders what do they actually want if you want to do it with the public sector.
Anyone would like to add something to it?
I mean, from an economic point of view, see, because we're here talking a lot about culture, and from culture and cultural reasons to fund something has to do with identity, with things that you value as a country, values, human values. From economic department, it's usually, raising the income of the country. I think the reason why we were funded was often what we call market failure. So subsidies are okay if there's a certain market is failing to do something that should be done. Well, and I think incubation is a great example of getting something started. We were bridging also between schools and industry, and that needs a bridge. And so that's a good way, but the market won't pay for that, won't do that automatically. So market failure in that sense, from an economic perspective, is a very logical argument for public funding, because in the end, it should raise the economic value of a country, therefore raise taxes, therefore bring in more money. So that is, from an economic point of view, very easy to make. A cultural argument for funding, depends on what you think is important. It really has to do with what does your country value, what do the people value? Why do you fund a film industry?
Yeah, Agata?
I'm thinking how to tackle it, because on one hand is this question from the market perspective: why would you fund gaming industry? And why wouldn't you find, I don't know, those who are building boats or whatever else? Like, that you have this, why this, especially if we speak of gaming, yeah? But then we have film. And yes, and you said that film is, but also depending, not always that heavily, not always enough. It's a very difficult issue. I think that, that the reason is what you said. It's another thing, that if you grow a company, then in the safe space, incubated, whatever, or even then later accelerated. Also, there's a question when you should stop as a public, support, when it should stop. I think that, if it goes out, it means, or if it keeps going, it means that it pays taxes, yes, of course, but it also hires services, pays other people. I'm thinking about even, one-person company that it's doing, for example, there was one girl who's doing, speaking of cats and dogs, she's doing accessories for cat and dogs. She can't create everything, like she will put them together, she designs them, but she also needs help of people who have the craft. Yes, so she works with the local people with different skills who will support her. So of course, and then there are other companies that support her with her communication and everything. So yes, of course, they buy services, they pay. When we should stop supporting them, that's another thing. But I would also look at it from the other perspective, is that we just need to like say it aloud. Those places, especially those that are not so heavily focused on like gaming on the market, they are not going to survive. There's no option without public support. Like I am a believer. It's because of the safe space that we're giving people, yeah? And this is the reason, basically. Because if we will give them low rentals and so on, and we want to invest in their lifelong learning and so on, it costs money. So it doesn't have to be, a subsidy from one place. It can be, of course, the whole very sophisticated scheme of approaching grants from here and there, but that needs support. So it's not going to magically happen. But not to disqualify, and it's not gloom, I just wanted to say, because we talked about it also in there is option, because that was kind of, I was missing it, like for so many different also cooperations and money making and cooperations with business. Like, sky's the limit. This is the thing also, that we in the sector, creatives, we've got the skills. And we are hell good with them, we can do magic. We can do the things that business cannot, but we can also learn through them. So there is also, not everything has to be also money. Sometimes it's about exchanging skills and learning from each other. It can be brilliant. They've got the business. They can, we also work with business trainers. I'm not good with that part. My best learning for our residents, our incubis, is like, I had a company for 10 years. For 10 years, unnecessarily, I paid VAT. This is how great, I'm a dragoness of business, basically, I'm so bad that they can learn on my failures. So this is how I'm, in that respect. But then there is a guy who comes, and he comes from business, and says, show me the money. Show me your first invoice. That's great, you've got a plan, you're doing beautiful things, you've done all the, mind maps, you've done all your prototypes. Show me your invoice. Show me the first invoice that you issued. So, yeah, then it's, to which invoice the state should still, or, public money should still support entrepreneurs in the sector. I don't know the answer, but I don't think that it's forever.
Also, sometimes the economic value is not directly in the creative and cultural industries. For example, in Brno, let's be honest, the technological companies are still bigger and will be bigger for a long time than the creative ones. But each one of those technological companies at these days, if they're competing on the global markets, need a perfect marketing strategy, perfect branding, perfect video, perfect visuals, perfect product and industry design. So I think we should count in the economical effect, the spillover effect it has on the other industries who are actually using the creatives for these things.
Yeah. So once again, I would like to ask you if you have questions. Anyone? Jiří will pass you a microphone. Answers, okay. Let's continue with
I was just thinking about a cultural argument for funding games. The reason why you fund the film industry is because it's your language, it's your people, it's actors. That's the difference with games. It's digital, virtual people. But the reason why it's not so easy to make films in your own country in English is because you want to have the stories that are local, and you don't want it to sound like Sean Connery's voice on your Czech main actor. You want your stories, your places needs to be in your language. The great thing about Netflix is nowadays that's not a problem. It's amazing. But with games, you don't have to do that. But do you want your children only to play games made in the US or in Asia? Do you want that? Plus, do you want the world to actually see something about your culture? A game about Prague, a game about whatever. There's such a great way to discover games. Assassin's Creed, Venice. If you want to know what Venice looked like a couple hundred years ago, play that game. Even if you don't care about the game, just walk around. It's amazing. So we want that, right? I mean, Prague, what an amazing city. I could think of 10 games that I'd want to build just based on the architecture and the history here. So I think that's another good reason from a cultural perspective to at least care about the game industry locally, because it is the most impactful entertainment industry today. And that's one slide I left out because of time, but the turnover globally of game industry is a couple of times more than the music and film combined. That means that our children are primarily learning values through games now. And then maybe film and music. So you have to let that sink in. It's so different than when we were growing up.
Also, one more pitch for the online games, because like if you played Roblox, I don't know if anyone played it. It's quite a wonky game, but it's more of a social media these days, and the Gen Alpha are actually spending more time
Facebook
there.
plus game.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is a question that is focused on the local importance. How can local culture creative hub help game developers? Because we are talking that they are focused on the whole globe. That we would like to reach people globally. How can the local center help them? We are talking that we have two epicenters in Czech Republic. We have Prague, we have Brno, maybe Ostrava. Is it something that is it a thing to create a local center in Hradec Králové, for example, and try to find few offices that will be after that,
It could be possible, but it's difficult. The reasons why the centers are Prague and Brno is quite obvious, because the universities are there, the students, the graduates are there, the other companies that you want to cooperate with are there, sort of communities. But we recently joined a European project that is studying local ecosystems in games industry, and one of the ecosystems is in Fundão in Portugal. So they just decided that this would be the way to focus on game development and bring more startups there, create the cultural hub there or creative hub there. Obviously, the city was behind it and the public funded was behind it. That's quite important. And through that, they created the space. They somehow advertised these possibilities. We can see that in these developed communities or developed countries like Sweden. The Swedish game dev centers are not in the main cities like Malmö and Stockholm. Obviously there are, but there are also in super small villages. Like my colleague, he was in something called Spell Collective, and that's like village of, I don't know, 5,000 to 2,000 people only, but they created the environment. They brought actually international attendees. It was not just for Swedish people. They attracted them through various ways, and then it started working, and it's still working. So it could be done. It could be done. The outcomes of the project that we are right now doing, the research project, there will be some advices, some policies, how to establish something like that. So that could help. We are just year one of the project. It's a 3-year long project, but there are already some recommendations that we already got. If somebody is interested to establish it, something like that, I don't know, in Karlovy Vary or something.
Thank you, Katarzyna.
From the Prague perspective, I think it's also very important, the space, the meeting space where the people actually can meet and talk and have a coffee together, because at the moment I'm working with this or setting up this accelerator, and of course I'm visiting a lot of schools, universities, and presenting it to the students, and they are quite often asking okay, who will be the others? If we meet them, can we connect with them? Maybe we can set up a team. And of course, they are meeting in the game jams or some other industry meetings. However, there is not natural environment when they could actually come and meet and share. So I think this is also important.
JP?
Yeah, I just want to ask people, have people heard of the EIT
Yes.
Culture and Creativity? They're going to be handing out loads of money, loads. EIT is originally innovation. I think it's European Institute of Technology, but they've added creative industries 3 years ago, and now they are opening programs in the last few months. they're going to be handing out money for all sorts of stuff, this kind of stuff, incubation, acceleration, everything. And if they'd come a year earlier, we might have still existed. So I would definitely check that website. Last year, Crystal and I were F5ing it every week to see if it was changing. But they are launching calls that could really help everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah, we are looking at them. We are actually in contact with them. We work close with one of the projects with them. So yeah, but I think it's for everyone as a good tip.
I think it's good for everybody to check out.
I would like to. I got to mention something. Yes.
I'm not sure if I understood this question right. I just wanted to make, we talked about it a bit during lunch, make a distinction. There is a community, in sense, creative community or art community. Sometimes that's one and the other, sometimes they're completely different. I mean, creative business community, yeah? Differently understood creativity. Then we have people, inhabitants living around us, which we sometimes tend to call community. That we have all those. So in a sense, like what you said, the meeting spots, you had lunch, we had breakfasts. We have creative breakfast, meeting for breakfast. Also inviting people who are not the residents of our space. So we open them up.
Good to have events that don't include alcohol. So breakfast and lunch are really good.
We do evenings too. But yeah.
We do that too, but people stay more focused.
We're from Poland, of course we do evenings.
Yeah, we do too.
So that's that. But then on the other thing is that, asking questions. You mentioned, Katarzyna, the meetings place. Before we completed the program for how incubator is going to work, we did the research. We asked future potential creative entrepreneurs what they need and what they want. And they said that, funnily enough, there were little things, like, for example, that they want to have 24-hour access to their spaces. Do you know that was one of the most important reasons why they applied to the space at Art Incubator? And as soon as they got that so-called residency, as we call it, they were coming like at 4 a.m., coming back from the party in the city, just to check if they can actually go into their office.
Yeah.
They were so happy with it. But then it's another thing, that when they come together and created that community inside, especially the first batch, they started also organizing things for the community outside, and we encourage them to do so. When they apply, we ask them, okay, how are you going to contribute to creating this, this little world that we've got within the walls, but also, how are you going to take what we've got here inside to the outside world? And they also started doing, markets, for example, when they presented their things. They've done the night of an open workshops, so like a night of the museums, but in our space. So they all of them prepared something, and they've opened their little workshops, their little rooms, their little galleries, and people came from the city. So it can be done very naturally in many different ways. And the other thing, very last one, it's like that we also changed the definition of what it means to be young. We had this talk also during lunch, because you mentioned 70, then 70 years old, and 11. So we had 17 years old before finishing, graduating high school team coming of gamers, and at the same time we had super experienced women who just were done with their CEO super important jobs in the big companies, and they were pursuing their new businesses in creative business. And then this also, the fact that there were people of different ages with different, that's also what brought the magic in a way. So yeah.
Okay, once again, the last time I asked you if you would like to ask a question, there's a last chance, because we are almost out of time. So maybe I will ask about the thing that was in the JP's presentation, that the game industry, or even games at all, are scalable perfectly. It's scalable business. I would like to ask about, I don't know if it's a good name for it, leftover ideas. I worked in advertising, I worked in startups, and we have tons of ideas that we weren't able to use. We had an idea for a game, we had an idea for an app, we had an idea for ad, but we were not able to sell it to client, we were not able to develop it to its finish. and
abandoned puppies?
yes, actually, but without killing them, of course. We keep them in the cage, very nice cage, and yes, gaming is not just about have an idea for a game and finish it and sell it, like Beat Saber, for example. But sometimes you create an engine, sometimes you create a design, game mechanics, story, whatever. Is it a thing to have someone or something that collects the ideas during the creative processes in the creative center that help maybe give them together and create something? Because some entrepreneurs struggle to finish the project, but they have great ideas, they have great engineers, and maybe you can help them to connect them with someone else. Is it a thing inside of the center, or should we focus on communicate, inter-centers, like between other?
I know exactly what you mean. I've seen things fail that I thought they were actually brilliant, and I know the reasons they failed, not because it was a bad idea, also not because it was a bad prototype, but other reasons. I think part of it, the people working in the center should remember those things. I remember I have a whole list in my head of things that I think, that wish that had happened. I thought about making an online database or a website, whatever, just like, hey, up for sale this idea, you can take it for 20 euros and make it your own. I don't know. I mean, I think it's an interesting concept. On the other hand, a good idea doesn't necessarily mean a good game. There are horrible ideas that become a huge good hit a game, and there are really good ideas that are total crap in the execution. So the execution is that's with anything. I mean, you can have a great idea for a painting, but if you don't know how to paint, then it's going to look like crap. So ideas and execution are two things, but I know what you mean. If you've got concept that you're like, I know for sure this would have worked. I know, yeah, I hear you. Could be an interesting little database. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I can imagine the graveyard when you click on the grave and it open up and pop up the idea or something.
Yeah, but graveyard is dead. No, we're talking about like lonely puppies. They're still alive. They're just lonely. Yeah.
I mean, facilitating this kind of matchmaking is super time consuming.
Yeah.
So I think it's great to actually offer like low scale, cheap variations where it can happen. We can be in Brno are the monthly meetups of game developers. 150 people come. That's where this place, where I would send someone with a great idea for a game and no developers. I wouldn't build a service on it though, right?
You should use an existing, like Instagram, just Instagram for lonely puppies.
Looking for
puppy ideas, game ideas, yeah.
So anyone would like to add something to the topic?
Just add trailers.
I would add just that quite a lot of our members and even us as the association are quite often approached by somebody with an idea, and I must warn everybody, it usually never works. The companies just don't looking for ideas, and even if you approach us as an association, like I got an idea, but I need somebody for the execution, this will never work. But that's like the reality, unfortunately. You need to have at least something more than just the idea, and then it's probably doable to work on that and maybe find more people for it. And this is also like the necessary need for the acceleration program, that you can't have just an idea. You already need to have something done, and with that you can apply.
But in our case, the technology companies are more and more interested in gaming, and sometimes you can see, like the Capnetics is a spillover of a technology they had the algorithm for clearance, and they remade it for this. And there's been a couple of companies who are actually using some form of technology for esport, for example, like eye tracking and stuff like that. So I think we're seeing quite a boom in the other way around.
Okay, I think that's it. I would like to ask you for applause for our guests.
Can we also make a big shout for our technical crew back then? They are doing an amazing job.
They were amazing, yes.
Day.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for your patience with me, Michael.
Yeah, our technical crews, Zdeněk, Klára, and Michal. Thank you very much.
A já ještě poděkuji našemu moderátorovi Jiřímu Jarošovi a Také Mário Kubašovi za první část. Teď, co vás ještě čeká po tom dobrém obědě, který ještě pořád trávíte, vám jistě přijde vhod to něčím malým zajíst, zapít a k tomu je určený ten následující čas takového společného networkingu. Takže jestli máte chuť si mezi sebou sdělit nějaké dojmy nebo s našimi hosty, kteří tady všichni jsou, tak vás teď všechny zveme znovu do Bílého sálu, kde je pro vás připravené pohoštění, které vám udělá z dnešního večera další zajímavý zážitek, když budete mít zájem. Ale ještě vás poprosím, abyste nám věnovali chviličku pozornosti a poprosím tu skvělou technickou sekci, aby tady za mě promítla. Máte tam promítnout ten program, na který chceme všechny pozvat? Mám takovou informaci. Oni už si mysleli, že nemusí nic dělat, když je někdo pochválil, ale ještě něco, ano, tadyhle máme za sebou. Chtěl bych vás velmi pozvat na fórum tvorby a inovací 12. května do Spirály a potom také na Creative Skills Week, který proběhne v září v Kongresovém centru. Jsou to dvě významné události, za kterými znovu stojí naše organizace a když si je teď zapíšete do svých diářů, tak budeme moc rádi. Zítřejší program pokračujeme i zítra, workshopy. Ty workshopy jsou dost beznadějně vyprodané, ale, nebo spíš vyblokované, protože u nás, jak jste si všimli, je všechno zdarma, ale kdybyste nějak hrozně potom toužili, tak nás o tom informujte. Vždycky jsou nějaké cesty, jak se věci dají udělat. Tak, to je za mě asi k tomu, co jsem nutně měl udělat ještě nyní a teď už ještě musíte chviličku vydržet děkování, které hrozně rád udělám, protože chci poděkovat za podporu odboru kultury hlavního města Prahy. Chci poděkovat partnerům akce, kterým je i pro Praha a Kemp Praha za tenhle skvělý servis, který tady vždycky zažíváme. A chci velmi poděkovat za záštitu hlavnímu městu Praha, Ministerstvu kultury České republiky, Ministerstvu obchodu a průmyslu České republiky. Prosím o potlesk pro ně. A ten druhý potlesk bych poprosil pro ty, kteří stojí především za tím dnešním a zítřejším dnem, kteří mu věnovali několik uplynulých měsíců spoustu svého času a energie a odvedli úžasnou práci a jsou to naši kolegové Kristýna Kočová, Hanka Kacafírková a Lenka Hluchá. Poprosím je sem. Pojďte sem k nám. Hanko, pojď, vidím tě. Lenku, tady chceme taky Lenku Hluchou. Všichni sem jdou, děkuji. A když už tady takhle stojíme, tak se hrozně nabízí, aby nám Rastě udělal společnou fotografii. My to milujeme. Pojďte sem k nám, prosím, stoupněte si sem s námi, s naším týmem. Už to bude poslední věc, kterou po vás dneska chceme, aby jsme si udělali takovouhle vzpomínku do budoucna. Jednou budete rádi, že něco takového máte. Tak poprosím úplně všechny, kteří tu jsou, aby sem přišli k nám. A já ještě toho zmatku využiju k tomu, že bych chtěl hrozně poděkovat překladatelům dnešního večera a také zapisovatelům, kteří nám celou dobu zapisovali. Děkuji moc. Tak ruce nahoru, jo?